So recently, I've said that every single president, every single American president for some time, always preferred the two-state solution when it comes to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now, that is not only not in Israeli interest, but I don't think it's even in American interest to encourage terrorist organizations to establish states that, among others, kidnap Americans, kill Americans, and are supported by Iran, one of the biggest enemies in the Middle East of America right now. I put out an exception of Trump that, at least not explicitly, he has been for a two-state solution. But now it seems like he is, period. He also prefers two-state solution. And to some extent, this is the fault of Israel for not putting forward its own interest, and of course, fault of America for accepting pragmatism as a way to go. What happens is there is a upcoming UN Security Council resolution about Gaza. We'll talk about that. There is an upcoming meeting of Witkoff with Al Haya, one of the top senior officials inside of Hamas, a terrorist organization. I guess we don't negotiate with terrorists doesn't mean anything and hasn't for a long time. But this is even more explicit as always. And of course, America, when it comes to the UN, is joining with a bunch of Middle Eastern dictatorships to put this forward. Welcome to the Daily Objective. My name is Daniel, and I'll be taking you on a ride here. So, again, I think something that has to be put forth the most is the fact that Netanyahu, as we've talked about on episode a few days ago, Netanyahu has really defaulted on what it means for Israel to take care of its own future. The fact that if Israel hopes to stay safe, it cannot allow the establishment of the Palestinian state as it is right now. Maybe in some distant future where Palestinians stop calling themselves Palestinians, because I don't think any group that would want peace, that would want liberty, that would want freedom, would want to associate themselves with Palestinians and what they always stood for and what they stand now, which is the destruction of the Israeli state. It is continuous violence against Jewish people and all Israelis, including Arabs. Saying that anybody who doesn't agree with Hamas is a Israeli collaborator and getting rid of them. So this is fault of Israel for not putting forward, as I've said, its own interest. Future of Israel is being decided on without Israel. Nobody, or America specifically, doesn't seem to be asking Israel about what it wants to do in Gaza. Mentally, it seems like Israel has been checked out of Gaza, despite the fact that it still has troops in Gaza. There is still fighting going on. There are still bodies of slain hostages, of murdered hostages inside of Gaza. But it looks like Israel doesn't want to have anything to do with it. It will still speak out against few things like Turkey or Qatar taking place in Gaza. But when it comes to actually doing anything, it seems like Israel and Netanyahu no longer want to bother, no longer want to do anything. And that amount of surrender, that amount of complacency, that amount of basically giving up, will, unfortunately, I think, result in maybe another October 7 or something even worse. Again, we are talking about potentiality of Turkey and Qatar having bases or having some amount of stationing inside of Gaza. And that is even the better scenario. We'll talk about possibly a worse scenario. But yeah, Turkey that has already said that they pretty much wanted the destruction of Israel. They cut off all the relations. The president of Turkey, Erdogan, has cut off all relations with Israel. Again, Turkey has NATO alliance, is in NATO alliance, and has therefore NATO weapons access to uh, I mean, I don't know to what extent Turkey is still part of the intelligence sharing, uh, but I have never seen a story about them being cut out unless they've never been a big part of it. So you have this country that is absolutely standing up against NATO interest, against interest of Israel, and we are allowing it to stay like that. But let's go to the UN. So what is happening? Basically, the UN Security Council will vote on Monday on a resolution endorsing Donald Trump's ceasefire plan, the 20-point ceasefire plan that we talked about. And they've said that if it doesn't go through, it will have a real human cost, that it will be a bad outcome if it doesn't pass, trying to incentivize people into passing it. Specifically, there is a quote from Waltz saying, any refusal to back this resolution is a vote either for the continued reign of Hamas terrorists or for the return to war with Israel, condemning the region and its people to perpetual conflict. So he says not passing this is for continual rule of Hamas. But the resolution isn't about, disarming Hamas. It's about Hamas willingly giving up its weapons and turning themselves over. Is that going to happen? Who is gonna? Are the Turkish forces or the Turkish coalition, the Qatari coalition, the American coalition, the regional coalition, whoever, are they gonna come in and disarm Hamas like UNIFIL did with Hezbollah? Like there is no Hezbollah now, right? Because we passed the UN Security Council resolution, established UNIFIL, which had the goal of disarming disarming Hezbollah. And in this case, the way it's written, it's even weaker than the UNIFIL mandate, yet somehow this will work. And saying that not supporting this is akin to supporting Hamas or for the return to war with Israel. And, now we have Donald Trump, somebody who I think fairly characterized has been fighting against the UN in many ways. He left the Human Rights Council, which, I mean, the name of it doesn't actually mean anything because it doesn't stand for whatever human rights mean. Even then, we should stand for individual rights, not some vague concept of human rights. So he left that. He put sanctions on people like Francesca Albanese. He put sanctions on many UN affiliated organizations, all great stuff. Generally, even his delegation or the people he picked to be the chief diplomats at the UN were pretty good. Um, he had all that, but now UN is good. Now let's work with the UN. Now whoever doesn't support the UN, he's the bad guy. Despite the fact that we have been undermining UN, rightfully so, for a long time, this is what happens with pragmatists. It's, one day we are against the UN for the rightful reasons. Another day, let's use the UN, and whoever doesn't support the UN is bad. And what happens after that? People will use that against America. They will say, well, you wanted the UN. You wanted the UN to have more power. You wanted to give sanctions to UN. So why should we take away the sanction? Again, that's the death of principles, the reign of pragmatism that Trump is bringing in. Now, of course, when it comes to the UN Security Council resolution, you need, of course, a majority vote, which I think in this scenario shouldn't be too hard to get. But of course, you need either approval or abstain from UN um, the UN, the Permanent Council, meaning France, UK, China, Russia, and of course America. I think UK and France, as well as America, since it's their UN Security Council proposal, are pretty much behind this. I think with China, I haven't seen much information about that, but at most they'll probably abstain. But Russia is actually playing it nice. Russia hasn't commented on this proposal. Um, Instead, they've said, what is it? That they're submitting an alternative proposal. They are going to the UN chief, and they are telling him, come up with some plan yourself, and we'll consider endorsing it. And Russia has very strongly talked about two-state solution for the Israeli-Palestinian settlement. So, Russia is doing whatever they can to basically go against it, as you would expect. And they use the UN to bash the Western powers, and we let them. We don't kick them out. We don't set up a separate organization. We simply accept, well, Russia is here as well, so we have to deal with Russia. Now, when it comes to sort of Trump or the US openly talking about the two-state solution, there's been a joint statement put out, a joint statement that has been arranged by the US on Friday, uh, backing the UN Security Council resolution. The statement has been supported by great nations such as Qatar, Egypt, United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Pakistan, Jordan, and Turkey. Yeah, these are American allies. These are people America should have close relationship, at least according to, well, both current and past administration. These are the countries that we are going to have friendly relations, that we're going to use to achieve peace in the Middle East. The statement itself talks about offering a pathway to Palestinian self-determination and statehood, saying that this ceasefire deal, the 20-point ceasefire deal, will achieve Palestinian statehood. Now, even if it did, the fact is nothing has changed with the Palestinian people. Nothing has changed with the way Palestinians are organized. They still want the destruction of Israel. Even if self-determination and statehood are achieved, that's not a good thing. Taliban has achieved self-determination and statehood. ISIS was close to achieving self-determination and statehood. And many other terrorist organizations or dictators, Al-Julani in Syria, I'm sure he would wish to have a full determination and statehood. It's not automatically a good thing. What is that statehood? What do you actually stand for? What are the values this self-determination and statehood would be about? But this is what we're going for. This is the goal seemingly right now. And again, Israel is simply standing by. Israel is looking at Turkey and Qatar possibly playing a role in Gaza, or even Egypt, or any Saudi Arabia, or Jordan, any group for that matter, besides Israel having a role in Gaza, is bad thing for Israel because nobody else wishes to de-radicalize the Palestinian people. Again, give yourself a question: Who made Palestinians extreme? Who made Palestinians violent? It wasn't Hamas. It wasn't PLO. It was UNRWA. It was UNRWA Education. It was the UN-sponsored organization that taught anti-Semitism, that taught violence against Jews, that fundamentally wanted Palestinians to retain this ideology of destruction of anti-Zionism, of destruction of the Israeli state. Now, another not good thing we are going to see is Witkoff. He is planning to meet with Khalil al-Hayya, one of the senior officials left in Hamas, to discuss the Gaza ceasefire. Just a reminder, Hamas is still a designated terrorist organization in America, as well as many Western nations. Yet we are meeting with them to talk about what they want to do. Al-Haya has said that he doesn't want Hamas to be what's the word for it? That he doesn't want to give up Hamas weapons. He doesn't want to do any of that unless it would mean an establishment of a Palestinian state, meaning he would still have the arms because it would become an actual military without being just this terrorist organization. Um, so yeah, I guess in the new we just negotiate with terrorist organization like it's any other organization. Although even with the states we negotiate, right? We look at Iran as if this is a negotiating partner. We look at Russia as if this is a negotiating partner. I think I've just seen just the title of the article of some real estate deals between Saudi Arabia and America, or between Trump. I'm not even sure if America would be involved. So, we're just making deals with these dictatorships because, are they different than us? We do the same things, right? There is no moral quality, no moral standard anymore when it comes to dealing with other nations. It's just pragmatism. What works? Oh, we'll get investments, or we'll get a deal. We'll get something out of it, so might as well. Something I've missed specifically about Witkoff, and this was a month ago, on October 19th, there was a CBS 60 Minutes, and I think it was both with Witkoff and Jared Kushner. Both of them are the negotiators for the American side when it comes to Gaza. And I must have missed this, but apparently Witkoff has shared uh, during this interview that when he met Al Haya in Egypt, he offered him personal condolences. People might remember when Israel targeted terrorists inside of Qatar. Uh, Unfortunately, it didn't take out Aya and Khalid Mashal. Those were two major officials or two senior officials that were targeted, but it killed Al Haya's son. Now, when it comes to his son, I wasn't able to find to what extent he is involved with Hamas. Uh, he is the son of Al Haya. He was in the same place where the others were. At the very least, this is the fault of Al Haya for keeping people close to him as a terrorist, using human shields in, the worst case scenario, if Al Hassan was fully innocent, which, we don't know. But, we don't, presumption of innocence is there. But again, that is the fault of Al Haya for allowing that to happen. Witkov has said, I told him that I had lost a son and that we were both members of a really bad club, parents who have buried children. Just a reminder, Witkov's son died of opioid overdose in 2011. What is this? What, like, okay, Witkov's son died at young age from overdose. That's a tragedy. That's a terrible thing. But telling a terrorist like, "Oh, I'm just like you," I also lost son. Telling that to somebody who lost his son because he's involved in terrorist organization, because he killed people, because he instructed murder, kidnapping, torturing, raping of people on October 7th. And that's the same thing as losing your son because you're part of a terrorist organization, and losing your son because he died of opiate overdose. That's the same thing. Jared Kushner added during that interview, he said, "What I saw at that moment was very interesting. You had, we go into a room and you have the Qataris, the Turks, and the Egyptians. And then we meet the four representatives of Hamas, which is a terrorist organization. And I'm looking at these guys and I'm thinking these are hardened guys who have been through 2 years of war. They've obviously, they greenlit an assault that raped and murdered and then did some of the most barbaric things. They've been holding hostages while Gaza's been bombed, and they've withstood all that suffering. But when Steve and him spoke about their sons, it turned from a negotiation with the terrorist group to seeing two human beings kind of showing a vulnerability with each other. What is this? What is this disgusting, we're just humans when we're talking with terrorists? They've did that. They've did, like, people have volition and they've chosen to do so. They've chosen to do October 7th. They've chosen to hide behind human shields. They've chosen this. And, we are going to sympathize with them because he lost his son. He was probably happy about losing his son. They are. Uh, the Palestinians are happy when they lose their children. They celebrate it. This is, they've been martyred. This is good for the cause. Do you think Hamas has cried for Israeli children? For any Israeli people? Or for their own people when they died? No. What did Yahya Sinbar say? This is a necessary sacrifice. We need children dying. We need civilians dying. We need people dying. This is good for the cause. And now we have Jared Kushner, the US official, recognizing the evil of Hamas and saying them showing a humanity is good. I mean, you couldn't be like you're being played, or not even played. They don't even have to play you. You are going out of your way to support them. I mean, it kind of reminds me of, I'm not sure if people seen Hassan Piker, a big Twitch streamer. He went to China and did like China propaganda. Uh, and it's the same kind of thing. Like the Russia and China and these Middle Eastern nations, they don't even have to make propaganda because we make it for them. We make it super easy for them to just, repeat what we say or what our officials say. They don't even have to come up with things. Um, so this is the rule of pragmatism. This is the rule of emotions, of not understanding what it actually is, of not knowing that what needs to be done in Gaza, talking about Palestinians as if they want peace, as if they want to live in peace and security. But fundamentally, this is on Israel. Israel needs to realize that if it wants to be free, if it wants to have its people live for the next decades, for the next centuries, it needs to stand up for its values. It needs to stop giving in to Hamas terrorism. It needs to stop compromising with Hamas and with Palestinians. It needs to call out the ideology of the Palestinians. And until it does that, it cannot expect that America will come in to save it, because it won't. Not under this administration, not under any other. But with that, let me recommend that people should, for a bit more positive things, people should check out the ARCUK's mailing list, which you can find on Ayn Rand Center UK, AynRandCenter.co.uk. Um, I recommend signing up for the mailing list to find out more about the Irreplaceable Spark Conference 2. The first one was a great success, and the second one should be even greater. For those who want to see the recordings from the first conference, you can check out uh, the playlist we have on this channel, but you need to become an Inner Circle YouTube member. We have a super chat from Bonnie. Thank you so much. Uh, and with that, of course, we'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Daily Objective. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and bye bye.